Well, impatience certainly is our worst enemy, and we're remarkably impatient. It's, as the Taliban used to say, we may have the watches, but they have the time, and they indeed have proved that. And that's part of the problem. I would say that Al Qaeda has definitely, under al Zawahiri, moved much more into empowering its local franchises to engage in acts of governance and also building their own version of a civic society. One of the jihadis' main arguments is that they're not corrupt. I mean, they are, of course, but they at least portray it that they don't have quite the venality that many local potentates, for instance, have in embracing Western aid and siphoning it off. But nonetheless, Al Qaeda under bin Laden was much more cautious about empowering its local franchises to engage in self governance. I think al Zawahiri very wisely, because of the competition from ISIS in particular, has pursued that route. That said, we have to remember when US forces took down Al Qaeda's headquarters in Kandahar in November 2001, they found that bin Laden had a very well stocked library. And amongst the books he had were books on Menachem Begin and the Irgun struggle against the British in pre-state Israel. And what he wanted to know is not terrorist tips, even though the Irgun, of course, had blown up the King David Hotel, but rather he was studying, we know this from multiple sources, that he was studying the Irgun's transition from a terrorist group to a political party, to Herut, the Freedom Party. So even groups like Al-Qaeda aspire to precisely the transition that Hezbollah has achieved, and that inspires them. Now, it may take them forever and it may never happen, but I go back to an earlier point I made. If these struggles are divinely ordained, you just don't give up. And as you pointed out, there are successive generations that the torch is passed to.